internet friends, and welcome to a special episode of Go Ask Alice, the show where we jump down random internet rabbit holes and bring you wonderful factoids for our adventures in Wiki Wonderland. I'm Drew, and today we're doing something a little bit different. Today we are looking back at our previous 13 episodes and highlighting some of our favorite moments from the past few months. But before we get into that, we really wanted to reflect on how much Go Ask Alice has meant to us. For me personally, I really had no idea what I was getting myself into when Lindsay first asked me to be a part of the show. I had previously been asked to be on podcasts and things from other people, and those sort of projects never came to fruition or never really got off the ground ever. And so when Lindsay first asked me to be part of the show, I was just like, yeah, this is probably not going to happen, but I'll entertain the idea, of course, because she's one of my closest friends. And so when she first told me that we were doing a podcast with someone from someone she met 2 years ago at a conference, I was like, great, this is definitely not going off the ground. And then she told me that she lives in Melbourne, Australia. And I'm like, great, this is really, really not getting off the ground. But then, we had a group chat that got established, and we met on Discord, and it just, it started to really materialize in a way that I just wasn't expecting at all. And all of a sudden it started to feel a lot more real until soon enough we had a podcast and we had episodes out and we were, producing weekly content. And that was just like so surprising to me that we had actually done this. And I think another thing that was very surprising to me was just the fact that I got so close to my two co-hosts, Lindsay and Sarah, of course. And Lindsay and I had always been close since college because, college was a great time. But Sarah I would have never met outside of just doing this podcast. So when we met on Discord, it was just incredible because she vibed so well with Lindsay and I, and she really was just great, and she laughed at all the stupid shit that I say. So, she gets an A in my book because of that, because, not many people laugh at the stupid shit I say. Anyway, regardless, it was just super nice to meet both of them. Not meet both of them, but, it was just super nice to have a podcast with both of them and just get so much closer to them because, I can't imagine my life without them at this point. It just they're so ingrained into my life that it's just, I don't know what I would do without them. And another part that I really didn't realize was just how much passion and how much energy I would put into the show. When it's my turn to edit, it's not, oh man, I have to edit. It's like, oh man, I get to edit. It's like an excitement behind just working on the show, and it's an excitement every single time we get to record every week, and it's an excitement when I find an article that I really love and want to share with them. It's super great that we're able to do this every week, and we've had some hiatuses and all that, but it's been just a great time for all of us, and I just absolutely love it, and I can't imagine my life without the podcast right now. And I think it's absolutely helped keep me sane during these months of isolation with COVID. But I just absolutely really love it, and I think the whole cherry on top of this whole situation has been that people are actually listening to our podcast. And I know you're probably going to hear this from all of us, but it's so incredible that we have people around the world who listen to us. And I just think that's the coolest thing in the world, that we have an audience. And I was just expecting our parents to be the only people who listen to the podcast, but it's actually more than that. And it's surprising to us, and we were like, holy crap, we actually have an audience. And I think this whole process has been just made even sweeter by the fact that we have an audience, and I have all of you to thank for that. And I think that's just, the most incredible part about this whole experience has been that, what we're producing and what we're putting so much effort into has actually been listened to, and it's actually a decently good show at the end of the day. I mean, speaking from someone who's actually making the show, I'm a little biased at this point, but I actually think it's a decent show, and I really love producing it, and I really love being on it, and I really love my two co-hosts. So, at the end of the day, I think this is just one of my favorite things that I get to do. And so, yeah, that's really what Go Ask Alice means to me. It's just means an absolute ton to me, and I really just love being able to do the show, and I hope to continue to do it in the future. So yeah, that's Go Ask Alice in a nutshell. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my favorite moment from the past 13 episodes of our podcast. And this comes from episode 11, Ask Alice About Ancient Witches on Life Support. And my favorite moment has to be just the whole discovery of witchcraft section that Lindsay brought to us. And I absolutely loved it. And it just had, it was just this book about terrible magic tricks that were just like that, like, in one part, I just say, this is witchcraft. This sucks. It was just so funny. But I think my absolute favorite moment just from that was when Sarah said, I don't think any of this would fool me. I die of laughter every single time I hear that. So yeah, that's this clip. That's from episode 11, Ask Alice About Ancient Witches on Life Support.
Who's to say? Maybe you skipped to this point by chance. But good news, because you are coming upon the discovery of witchcraft.
Oh.
Which is.
Ooh.
That is the book. That is the book that I landed on. Taking a page out of Sarah's book, which I wish I chose a different phrase because now that's just confusing.
Book and book.
Book and book. The actual spelling of this is Old English, so if you were to read it very literally, it would be the discovery of witchcraft.
Oh, I love Old English so much.
I will introduce the book's author. His name is Reginald Scott. He was an Englishman, and he decided to put this book together because he was fed up by street charlatans. He's like, I keep getting tricked. No.
He's sick of kids on his lawn, basically.
Yeah, he was like, everyone's having too much fun in Renaissance medieval times, and I'm going to fuck it up. Without further ado, I would like to teach you some magic tricks.
Yes, please.
Okay. So the title of... what do I want to say? To eat a knife and to fetch it out of any other place. So what you would first do is you would take a knife and you would contain it. That's the words he used. Contain the knife within two of your hands. So what you would do is as if you were holding like a microphone or, even like a cup with two hands, you would do that with the knife and with the point facing you. And you would put the knife basically right between your teeth and chomp on it so that you make a noise.
Oh.
Okay. So
no, that I've got sensitive teeth. Oh.
You want to trip, but Sarah, you got to make sacrifices right now.
You got to commit to the bit.
Sarah. Yep, we are gonna fetch this out of any place. So you gotta be ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
So you bite down on the tip of the knife, and you make it seem like you are pantomiming that you are pushing it into your mouth, but really both hands are covering the rest of the knife. And then because you're trying so hard, you go, oh my God, can send for a drink, please. This is so difficult. I'm having a very hard time.
I need some lubrication.
Yes, this is really, it's no easy thing eating a knife. So please fetch me some water. So when somebody goes to fetch you water, you take your hands down. Presumably you're sitting at a table. You bring your hands down. When you bring your hands down, drop the knife in your lap.
Wow, this only works under super specific circumstances.
I'm not done. We're going to seal the deal right now. I'm not done.
Oh my God.
So then when the person comes back, you drink the water and you're like, thank you so much. Maybe you like lean over and sip. Then you bring your hands back up to your mouth. You know the knife isn't there, but they think the knife is still there. And then as you pull your imaginary knife towards your face again, you bite down on your fingertip.
Oh.
Or sorry, on your nail. I'm so sorry. You bite down on the edge of your nail and then you pretend to shove it into your mouth.
Yeah, it seems flawed, but I don't think it would fool me. Like if this is on Penn and Teller, I think it would not.
Sarah, I probably should have said this first. absolutely nothing from medieval times is going to fool you. If you're looking to be fooled by anything, I will also note that I am teaching you how to do the fooling. So just hearing how the magic trick works and saying that wouldn't fool me. Well, correct, because
No, I'm just saying, just like picturing a person do this. Look, I'm astounded that people thought it was
you
real.
play D&D, you know that there's a charisma modifier. Like,
Yeah. They had like +7 to their charisma, didn't they?
Yeah, so that's my absolute favorite clip. I think it's the funniest thing when Sarah says, like, I don't think this would fool me. And Lindsay's just like, yeah, of course it wouldn't, because I'm teaching how to do the trick. And also it's medieval times. So, you know, like what they what's going to fool them is not going to fool you. So I just found that very, very funny. And I absolutely just love that moment. So the next moment that I'm bringing up is the most entertaining topic to me, which came from episode 9, which is Ask Alice About Nobel Laureate Moles Lost at Sea. And this has to be the topic of foghorns, which I absolutely loved because it was just so funny. Like a foghorn just seems so like, yeah, of course you're just going to use a horn. But just the creations that they made to before a foghorn was invented was just so funny. And I absolutely loved it. So this is episode 9, Ask Alice About Nobel Laureate Moles Lost at Sea.
if you just never really thought that hard about boats like me, in the fog, it's very hard to see light. Of course. So a lighthouse is not going to be very helpful in telling you when you are close to land, aka danger, if you're traveling at a high speed. So foghorns were important as a way of penetrating the fog to let boats know, like, hey, this is where the port is, or you should come this way.
It's like a little siren sound to help direct them.
Yeah, like siren as in like the ancient Greek siren,
Yes,
right?
yes, exactly.
I got you. That was very poetic. But the first fog signals were actually developed in Europe in the 1700s. It's a relatively new invention.
Wow.
Relatively.
Yeah, I can't stop laughing at the thought of this. But the first fog signal, especially so in 1700s, the first one implemented in Boston was in 1719. It was just a cannon.
Oh my
Just
god.
imagine, like, oh, there's fog. Boom. But I think what's so funny to me is that if there's fog, like, no one can fucking see anything. So you're just blindly firing a cannon, like, into... Anyway, so the way this would go day to day is that lighthouse keepers, when it was really foggy, like, you can't just shoot off one cannon and be like, oh, everybody knows there's fog here and everyone knows where the port is. Like, no, you need to continuously shoot off cannons to let ships know that it is still foggy and we are still here. So lighthouse keepers for fucking days would shoot off cannons repeatedly from the lighthouse. And so another idea that
Go on.
Another idea that they came up with was a giant metal triangle. Four-foot long, so longer than a meter, Sarah, on every end of the triangle. This job fucking sucks. This was in 1837 in Maine. They were like, how about a giant triangle?
Oh my god.
And he goes, what if we fucking took a clarinet body and a trumpet head and then we put fire and gravity in it? What if we just made a really big, annoying clarinet? Like also of all the instruments, right? Like, who's like clarinet's gonna save the day?
Yeah, clarinet.
Yeah.
I'll do an apology corner for clarinet players later. But Debol comes along. Debol, I'm gonna say it differently every time. Comes along and he comes up with a coal-fired engine that compresses air and pushes it through this clarinet trumpet. Like there's a giant metal reed in it, and that's where we kind of get the first like real horn. This is now in 1860. So we are not yet at the boo. Like that hasn't been invented yet. Like we had to develop that. Okay, these are like the fucked up attempts along the way. So this is the most dramatic thing I have read. It's about the clarinet. It had, quote, a screech like an army of panthers, weird and prolonged, gradually lowering in note until after half a minute, it becomes the roar of 1,000 mad bulls with intermediate voices suggestive of the wail of a lost soul, the moan of a bottomless pit, and the groan of a disabled elevator.
I really love this topic. It was just so funny to me just how non-linear the progression was from, these different devices to a foghorn, where it felt like a foghorn was just so simple and it should just be, that's what you use. But, all these different inventions were just were just so funny. So I absolutely love that clip. And I think that whole topic was just great. So the most surprising topic for me comes from episode 12, which is Ask Alice about protecting alien punctuation against centaurs, which contained the section about planetary protection. And I thought originally that planetary protection would be, protecting, like how to protect us from the catastrophic events that would destroy our world. But it was actually about protecting other planets from our bio-life forms. And so I just found that so interesting and just so cool that we actually had these plans in place that said, well, this is how we protect all these other planets from us. And I just thought that was absolutely incredible, and I love this topic. So that's, again, episode 12, Ask Alice about protecting alien punctuation against centaurs.
Alrighty. Are you guys ready to talk about possible wipeout events for our planet?
Yes, 100%. I'm so into it.
Yeah, Lindsay's less into it. You don't want to die?
You're making me nervous.
What, big girl doesn't want to die?
Yeah, and so I landed on planetary protection thinking it was going to be about how to protect our planet from, like, aliens or asteroids or, did not read the first sentence that says not to be confused with planetary defense.
Which is precisely what you proceeded to do.
Yes, exactly. So I missed that because I wanted to scroll down to the history, and I started reading the history and realized I was on the very wrong page. But it was still very fascinating. So I'm going to give you some planetary protection and some planetary defense, if that's okay with you.
Sounds great.
Yes, please.
It's actually about protecting other planets from us, because we are the issue.
Oh, I like this.
So it's mainly the other planets that we share the solar system with. So, like Mars, Jupiter, Venus, all of those good ones. Chuck in Uranus for some giggles. But yeah, so it's protecting them from us when we try to explore them, because our Earth is manky with all sorts of organisms and germs and viruses and all of this. Like we're steaming with life here. Like we have so much life, which is great for Earth. Not great though if you're taking it to an alien planet or a planet where we don't know the full spectrum of what is alive there. So we haven't found life outside of Earth yet. But just say if Mars did have very delicate single-celled organisms, we wouldn't want to completely wipe them out with a virus or with a microorganism that we've accidentally sent on one of our spaceships there. So what I found really interesting was not all places in the solar system are treated equally, which why would they be? Humans, we have trouble with the idea of equity and equality, which I like to think our generation is highly working on. But yeah, it turns out that some places you go in the solar system, less important to keep clean.
Wow.
Which I thought was really fascinating. So there's
Yeah.
different categories of like recommendations for how clean and sterilized anything you send could be. And so I'll give you some category examples. So there's technically 4 or 5. 5 we haven't gotten to yet, but in the future we could get there. Yeah, exactly right. And so this is where we get to category 4, which is probably the most important. And so this is landers or probe missions to the same locations as category 3. So places of interest, like that include Mars and the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, and some asteroids as well. And so this is one of the highest ones with category 4, because you want to be able to sterilize the entire spacecraft and landers before actually packing them up and sending them over. So you need to have a really low probability that any of the microorganisms that are left on these would interact with your investigations on the surface, or could negatively impact any indigenous organisms that are on the surface of this planet or moon that you're going to. Which is really tricky to try plan for, and that hopefully in our lifetimes we will see humans bringing back Mars rock samples or Mars dirt samples, which will be really, really cool. We've already had some asteroid sample brought back as well last year. Some sample landed in Australia in its closed little sterilized box, and is hopefully being analyzed right now, which is crazy, crazy cool. But yeah, something that I didn't fully consider was really, really important.
Yeah.
So do they just like in the rover just put like 6 Ziploc bags on top of each other?
I think, yeah, basically the engineering equivalent to a good Ziploc bag.
So yeah, those are my favorite clips, and those are my favorite moments, and just, the most surprising topics for me. And I absolutely love all of them, and I can't wait to have many more of these in the future. So up next is Lindsay.
So Sarah had this really nice idea that we should all reflect on each of our sections, I guess, or what the year has meant to us. And I guess this is a golden opportunity because this is our first year of doing the podcast, and it's been like nothing short of unprecedented. Absolutely. At first, my original goal was just to put my voice in some part of the planet that I've never been and probably never will go, just because I'm not, a multimillionaire. And that's already happened, like over and over again. And I just can't express how delightful that feels. And incredibly humbling to think that some perfect stranger has listened to me talk. So if you're listening now, hello, and I love you, and I can't wait to meet you one day. Just amazing. I guess fitting in the theme of the prompt that Sarah has given us to kind of reflect, I thought long and hard about like what I wanted to say about what the podcast has been through this time capsule of an episode. And I feel like such a jackass saying, oh, I just decided to like start a podcast with my friends through the pandemic, like LOL, like that. I feel like hipster trash when I say things like that. And I didn't really think that anybody was going to listen to any of this. So again, like, thank you. And when I say follow us on Twitter, I mean like come hang out with me, because I can't believe you're real, But I think that overall, it's been this weirdly therapeutic like practice in a way that as an academic, you are forced to really commercialize yourself in every way possible, or reduce yourself to this one-dimensional being that just sells whatever it is that you're studying. And so in some kind of roundabout way, this whole exercise was a rebellion against academia, because for the first time, and as long as I could remember, I wanted to do something that I was not going to put on my CV, or I wanted to be something or think about something that is just not my job. And you have the whole fucking internet in front of you. You can ask any question you want to ask and get it answered. And so that's kind of where the idea sort of came from for the show, and just to kind of meander and have fun. Like, I don't think that it's any accident that we all end up on topics that are just very central to us as people. It's been on many levels a sort of looking glass or a sort of a mirror effect. So I've honestly learned about myself looking at the list of things that I wandered upon or found really, really interesting. I think that it's also been a really odd exercise in outrunning the bear. You know, I think that a lot of us do the things we do because we feel like there is like a fucking bear chasing us, and we, you know, can't rest. That means you fall under the wheel, or, you know, you fall prey to the bear, I guess. And for a long time, I was feeling really burned out with work and with my job. And because being a grad student is pretty rough. And the pandemic itself forced me in a position that I felt like I had to lay down and get eaten. Like, what if you could never see your family and all of your friends left you, and, you know, even your job just like failed you? Like, all of that felt like it happened all at once. I became extremely disillusioned with what I was studying. I couldn't see any of my family, like, you know, I know that we all feel this way, right? Lost all my friends. And it took me a long time to realize I'm actually okay and things are actually fine. And from there, it was this immense empowerment to realize, like, hey, even in the worst case scenario, I've still got me and I'm still having fun, and I can still find my way through whatever it is I want to do. And it's kind of like reborn from the ashes of just isolation. I can color the whole world the way that I want it to be. And so thank you for being a part of that world that I've colored, I guess. And I wouldn't have it any other way. So thank you for being a part of this grand experiment. And without further ado, I'd like to show you all of my favorite parts of what I've gotten to color over the last few months. So let's kick things off with a really high note. The funniest moment of this entire year of podcasting was undoubtedly when Sarah was trying to guess what different mythical beasts are made of. And like, at the time, I was like, painfully aware of how long we were taking to record. I didn't know how long the episode was going to be. So at the time I was very serious, like trying to keep us on track. And when I went back and listened to it, I was crying tears of laughter. Like, hands down, that has been the moment where I'm like, if you listen to anything from this podcast, just please listen to these few minutes where Sarah makes the most fucked up creations I can possibly think of. Enjoy this moment from episode 12, Ask Alice about protecting alien punctuation against centaurs. So to warm up our imagination, I wrote down some hybrid beasts that I could remember, and things that I stole from the article. So a little game that we're going to play is I'm going to say a hybridized beast, and you guys are going to tell me what ingredients make it up.
Yes, I like this.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's start off easy. What are the ingredients of a mermaid?
Fish and human.
Fish.
Yeah. Yes. Ding, ding. Both
Ding,
of
ding,
you.
ding.
Yes. What are the ingredients of a centaur?
Horse and human.
Yes, horse human.
Nice. Ding, ding, ding. What are the ingredients of a griffin?
Phoenix. And fox. Bird, bear. I don't know.
Eagle and something. It's an eagle. God,
It's kind of buff.
Gorilla.
No, it's four-legged. What eagle and gorilla have you seen?
Most fucked up thing that's why we have a content warning, because Sarah was going to make us imagine an eagle and a gorilla.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I thought griffins, I thought they were real. I thought Phoenix.
Phoenixes definitely aren't real.
Yeah, well, you said the first ingredient. The first
He's a
ingredient you
phoenix.
said was a phoenix.
I thought a phoenix was based off a real bird. Like, obviously they don't come back from the ashes like Harry Potter, but I thought they were based off a real bird. I don't know my birds. I am not an augurist.
Okay, well, I mean,
person.
I'm pretty sure that they're like made of fire whenever they feel like it. Anyway, no, a griffin is an eagle and a lion.
Oh, a lion. That's what I was
And
thinking.
you laughed at gorilla.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
don't
because
even
that
compare
was
them.
not right. So here's the real challenge. What are the ingredients of a chimera?
I know that it's a telescope. There's the chimera array,
No,
and that's all I've got
that's
on that.
not what I'm talking about. There are 3 animals.
Can you describe?
No, because then I would tell you the animals.
Why do I feel like it's got a... Well, does it have scorpion in it? Or am I way off?
No, you're along the right track. It's got a weird tail and it's got 2 heads. So okay, sorry, Sarah. I can give you some hints. Or can
Okay.
describe it. It's got 3 heads. One of them is its tail.
Oh,
It's a snake tail.
Yep, snake butt.
Snake butt. And it's got... Why do I feel like it's got a lion head?
Yeah, the lion is one of them.
And it's definitely not bear. It's something different.
is it on the body of a different animal? So it's like snake tail, lion head, and then a different body.
It's got a second head,
Ooh,
though.
that's actually but that's a tough question, Sarah. It has, I might as well give you the answer. It has the body of a lion, the head of a lion, the udders of a goat,
Oh
a
shit!
goat head, and a snake tail. So the third one was a goat. That was a hard one.
That is hard.
Oh, another one I wrote down was
Who
harpy.
thought of that?
The ancient Greeks, I guess.
Harpy's a bird and a lady.
So obviously the whole premise of the show is to learn something new. And when every episode is an opportunity to learn something new, it's very hard to look back and try to figure out for myself what was the most entertaining or exciting topic that we ever talked about, because they all left an impression on me. But I think that if I really had to choose which one like fucked me up so bad that I was thinking about it days later in the shower, that would definitely be the time that Sarah was talking about Lazarus Taxon all the way back in episode 5. Ask Alice about rising your drunk genius from the dead. Because how do you lose like a whole species? Like, did you check everywhere? And then, like, when you find it again and it's like a tree that hasn't moved, I don't know. Just this one really stuck with me. So I hope it sticks with you too.
Okay, are you guys ready to learn about Lazarus taxons?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
So in paleontology, a Lazarus taxon is so a taxon, so like either a species or an organism that disappears for one or more periods from the fossil record, but then reappears later. So it's something that looks like it has either gone extinct or has been completely wiped out from the record. So most likely was extinct, but then they find it either in later fossil records or living in real time, which is really, really cool.
Oh my God.
What I found was really fascinating is that basically, so this Lazarus taxa, or this phenomenon that we see, is completely an observational artifact. And so for this artifact, so this observational artifact occurs because of the way that fossils have been either preserved or are found and then studied. Because when you think about it, so fossils, we only get to look at very specific areas of the world when we go fossil hunting, or when we take big core samples. It's not like we're able to sample every patch, so it's quite sporadic. Conversely, on the other side, back when these things were existing before becoming fossilized, not everything gets fossilized. So you have to exist in you have to die basically in a very unique circumstance with the right type of floor bedding under you, the right type of environment to be able to become a fossil.
That's fascinating. So are there examples of how this has happened before?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked. I have 3 examples of my favorites that I really liked. So we're going to start with the Leo Tang rock rat.
Okay.
Which, if you say that 3 times fast, it turns into gibberish. So he's really cute. I'm going to send you a link to him because I clicked on him because he's pretty dang cute. Chubbier, he's got a bushy tail. Isn't he cute?
Yeah.
He's a happy little
He
guy.
looks like a really tough chinchilla.
But until very recently, they were thought to have gone extinct about 11 million years ago. And that's where they kind of drop out of the fossil record. They're not seen anymore, so we just assumed they were extinct. And then fast forward to 1996, someone discovered a living one of these and was like, he looks very similar to this fossil. And it wasn't until they did a full analysis that they're like, he is this fossil. And so he was kind of like brought back from this dead, which I thought was really, really cool. And so my next one is not as cute because it's a tree, but this is something called the Wollemi pine. And I was really interested in this because it was from here in Australia. So it was found in a few different fossil records. And so they thought that this was a type of pine tree that had completely gone extinct. They'd never observed it in the wild. In the extensive research they were doing into Australia's rainforests, they'd never seen it in the wild. And then again, it wasn't until the mid-90s, so it was 1994, that someone discovered a very similar type of plant in this rainforest. And so when they went investigating, they realized that this plant was growing right next to the original Wollemi pine. So I've got one more example of a true Lazarus taxa. So this was found in fossil records and then rediscovered living. And this is called a bush dog, and these are found in Central and South America. Look at that little face and the little tail. So yeah, thought to have gone extinct and thought to have been one of the ancient relatives of modern day doggos that we have, until in 1843 one of these researchers identified him again, but they didn't realize it was exactly the same thing, so they put it down to a different species, and same genus but different species. And then a few years later they realized in the 20th century, so 50 or so years later, that this was actually the exact same taxa as the original fossilization.
So as you guys know, or probably know by now, once we start recording, that is the real impression that we are getting of each other's findings for the week. So we never know what one another is about to present before the show. We will sometimes text each other throughout the week and be like, I can't wait to show you this fucked up thing I found or whatever. Or just, giggle maniacally in the group chat or something. So when we are surprised by one another's topics, it is genuine. And I have to say that for me, the most surprising and unanticipated topic was back when Drew talked about the Doomsday book, because it was nothing that I was expecting. So back in episode 10, that was Ask Alice About Socrates and the Fortune of Doom. Enjoy.
I'm going to let you guess. What's in the Doomsday Book? What do you think is in the Doomsday Book?
Is it a census of England, basically?
Yeah, ruined the joke.
I was going to guess.
No, do it. You practiced you well, actually. I know you did. Do it. Go on.
Well, actually, the Doomsday Book.
I can hear you taking off your glasses.
So the Doomsday Book is the recorded manuscript of the Great Survey, in which William I, or William the Conqueror, requested a survey of every shire in England and Wales. So the interesting part to me about the Doomsday Book was that the estimations were, and I quote from Wikipedia, dispositive and without appeal. So
what does that mean?
So dispositive means that basically, if they say you live in this area, you live there, and without appeal being if they say you live there, and if they say this is how much you're going to be taxed, you have no recourse against that. It's that's how much you're going to be taxed. So,
Wait, so could you write down like people's names you hated?
no,
In a
this was-
higher tax area.
So, what I found very interesting is Doom didn't have any sort of negative connotation back then. In Middle English, it had no negative connotation. It was purely just judgment. Hence, Doomsday being the day of judgment. And so,
Oh shit!
so we have in modern English applied this sort of negative connotation to Doom, but Doom back then did not mean what it means now. So it just purely is just judgment. And so he sent out his forces to go survey all of England and Wales to really figure out how he could tax the shit out of it. And
Yep.
so that was the first census. So this was conducted in 1086. And so no survey of this magnitude was conducted until 1873. So it took quite a long time before, anyone even thought about doing this again. They're just like, that was a lot. So
Well,
That was a lot.
that sucked. Let's not do that again. The census sucks.
So, did you say like 800 years later?
Basically, yes.
They're like,
Wow.
I guess we should see what's up.
It was, and it was literally called the Modern Doomsday. So,
no way! That is so
Yep.
cool. I wonder for how many generations that held up.
well, I have an answer for you because it was used in 2010.
No!
Oh
Yes,
my
it was used in
gosh.
2010 to help a dispute in sporting rights, deer and fox hunting, and used in 2019 to help a dispute in financial markets.
Are you serious?
So even today, the Doomsday Book is involved to settle land rights. So the composition of the Doomsday Book was the Little Doomsday and the Great Doomsday. Just the Little Doomsday. So the Little Doomsday itself was actually much smaller in scale, and so it only surveyed a very small area, or very few areas, I should say, and but was very, very detailed about the survey. And so they got specifically how many heads of cattle there were, and all this like extraneous information about
Oh my
people.
god. Was there someone literally counting sheep?
Yeah, probably.
Wow.
And so they had all this like ridiculous information about a very small area. And then the Great Doomsday, they kind of realized, well, shit, we can't do that again because that sucked. And so they recorded the rest of the areas that were not touched in the Little Doomsday and did it in much...
Like broader strokes?
Yes. Yeah, much less detail. That's the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
They recorded it in much less detail. It is on the internet right now. It is 100% on the internet right now. You could look up the Doomsday right now.
Oh my god!
The article. So yeah, I saw a few of the pages, and they're just like tons of writing. It wasn't super interesting. Like it wasn't like an art book or anything. It wasn't like those fancy.
I know.
It was just like
I love that you clicked on a book and you're like, there's tons of writing in here.
no. I meant it wasn't like a fancy art book. There's a bunch of words in this book. Come on. Hello, Drew again. I'm editing this episode, so I'm back. I'm back to talk to you some more. But I absolutely love these clips, and I think Lindsay did a great job picking them out. And I, I'm a little jealous about a few of them that I didn't get to pick them. But anyway, they're pretty great, and I think Sarah did a great job too. So up next is Sarah, of course.
Well, hello everyone. It is Sarah here, ready to dive into all of my favourite parts from this year's Go Ask Alice. It has been a crazy wild ride, considering that I messaged Lindsay out of the blue after 2 years of not speaking to each other, just because we met briefly at a conference, we got on like wildfire, and then we got on with our lives, and occasionally we'd send each other shit posts on Twitter. But I messaged her out of the blue at sometime in the middle of this year and was like, hey, I vibed with you so much. I would love to just hang out with you, and I think it would be fun to make a podcast. And thankfully, she also vibed with me, and she too thought it would be fun to make a podcast. And so as we were going through all the ideas of what we would want to do, because we're all wildly curious about different topics and different interests, and even though we're astrophysicists on a daily basis learning about physics, that we want to learn more than just physics. We both love things that are spooky and kooky and a little bit, dark history, dark tourist type of vibes. And we were excited to just go down rabbit holes, starting on, very innocuous pages and see what we could find that interested us. And so as we were starting this idea, she's like, hey, I have a best friend, Drew, who is literally the funniest person I've ever met. Would you like to meet him? And we'll see how it goes. And I was like, yes, absolutely, sure. So we all met on Discord, and I had tears in my eyes within the first 5 minutes of talking to Drew because he cracked me up so much. He's like a brother from another mother. We love Drew so much, and he fitted in with just our general kookiness so well. And that is how the podcast kind of began. And since then, we have had so much fun going over almost 40 different topics, all weird, wonderful, from everything from nature to sci-fi to product placement, which I never thought I would find interesting, but thanks to Drew, I now do. And we've had so much fun learning about what you guys find interesting and what you find on the internet as well. And so I am so excited to recap some of my favorite things that have happened over this year. And a lot of some of my favorite things are actually not in episodes. So some of the greatest things that happen are actually when we're planning the episodes, planning what the question of the week is, planning what the topics are. And it's the cryptic messages that we get from Lindsay about what her topic is going to be or what her answer to the question of the week is going to be that keeps me on my toes waiting to hear it when we're recording, which is so much fun. And so without further ado, here are our favourite moments of the year. So one of my favourite moments that sticks in my head and makes me laugh every time I think about it, it wasn't even a topic from any of our episodes. It was just this random snippet in one episode where Lindsay puts her foot in her mouth with her pronunciation of words. And so this topic is from episode 7 called Ask Alice about carving a disguise against AI moles. It is a load of fun. We dive down the rabbit hole starting with Reese Witherspoon and we find all sorts of really fun topics. So I cover jack-o'-lanterns, Drew covers AI takeover and history, and Lindsay covers the history of whack-a-mole. So it's all over the shop, lots of fun things that happen. And the clip we're about to play is a tidbit from when Lindsay randomly brings up Sonic the Hedgehog and his friend, the echidna. And yeah, we learn that even though I can't spell, Lindsay can't pronounce. And it is a wild ride and so much fun. And I don't know, every couple of days I think about Lindsay saying echidna and I just giggle. So I hope you enjoy.
And another bonus is that for some reason I have now ended up following a bunch of Sonic fans on Twitter. And with the new release of the second Sonic movie, there's been a lot of Knuckles trivia. Knuckles the Echidna. And did you know that Knuckles the Echidna was originally based off of...
Are you saying the Echidna?
Oh my god, what do you say?
Like... The echidna?
The echidna, yes.
Stop! Wait, okay, other question. How do you say archipelago?
Archipelago?
Fuck this. No, oh my god, it's archipelago.
No, it is not.
I said it like that in middle school and no one stopped me.
Oh. While I was shopping in the Husky section.
This world is going to shit. Okay, well,
what did you find out about Knuckles the Echidna?
Knuckles the Echidna was originally created after the Rastafarian flag.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah, and he was supposed to have a Jamaican accent. And then according to this article, he is now of Mesoamerican descent.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Do you guys have echidnas? You have porcupines in America, don't you?
I don't think we
Yes.
have echidnas.
I'm
I don't know
pretty
if we
sure an
have
echidna
echidnas.
is a native animal to Australia.
We have echidnas. Oh, how do you spell echidna? I wouldn't know. Do we have echidnas in America? Clicky clack.
Clickety clack. Don't talk back.
Spiny anteaters. I don't know. I can't find out immediately. Oh, echidnas live in Australia and New Guinea. So no, we don't.
No, we do not.
And not
They're a
in Jamaica
monotreme.
either.
And
Where did these guys get this idea from? They were probably high.
holy shit, they descend from the platypus.
Yeah. And I think the echidna and the porcupine are examples of like the convergent evolution on two different continents of something adapting very similarly to fight off different types of prey that try to bite it.
Oh, that is really cool.
Yeah, they're pretty cute.
Damn. Wow, I've learned so much before the show. Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly.
It's Sarah, and I'm back again, this time to reminisce on my favourite topic. This one was an easy one for me because I love it so much. It is from episode 6, Ask Alice about venomous giant squids with socialist agendas, and you can probably guess what my favourite topic was. The giant squids. Anyone who knows me knows that I love things that are really, really big and really, really small that shouldn't be. So giant squids are just the pinnacle of coolness, in my opinion. And Lindsay presents it in such a lovely way, and it's a wild ride. You'll never believe what happened to this poor record-breaking giant squid. So I hope you enjoy.
Really put yourself there. So it's 1878, and the person Sarah just talked about, whose name I can't pronounce, just died in 1876. The world is like up and coming. Like we just kind of discovered the internal combustion engine or invented it or whatever. Like the typewriter was discovered, or not really discovered.
In the wilderness of America, they found a typewriter.
Right. Somebody discovered a typewriter in the jungles of there's stuff that's like, I'm pretty sure. So Bissell invents the first vacuum cleaner in 1876.
Very important item.
Yep, the telephone, the first version of the telephone by Alexander Graham Bell also was invented in 1876. Moving pictures first came about, the phonograph, and we are a year before the light bulb is invented. So we're really on the cusp of all of this new technology.
Okay.
And Thimble Tickle earns the Guinness World Record on a chilly November day. It's a very, very, very small, like fisherman's harbor sort of an area. In fact, when the area was founded, it had about 67 people living in the settlement. And looking at like kind of a histogram of different population sizes, sometimes as few as 11 people lived in Thimble Tickle. Today, it's closer to about 92 people. So a very, very small fishing little
Do you
harbor.
think they are all related?
I mean, at the time that there were 11 people, sure. You know, I mean, probably
One family.
Yeah. And so it's a chilly November day in 1878, and 3 men are out in a fishing boat, and they realize that the waves start to get really, really rough. And we know from secondhand accounts of the day that the men saw something that they described as a devilfish. In fact, it is also known as the Thimble Tickle specimen.
Oh.
And I love that the Wikipedia article says it was so the direct quote is, it was not far from the locality where the other devilfish was cast ashore. And the name of this this other devilfish is called the 3 arms specimen. And at first I'm like, holy shit, what has 3 arms? Like advanced legs or whatever the fuck.
Modified legs.
Modified legs.
No, it turns out 3 arms was just another shitty name of a place. So both Thimble Tickle and 3 Arms are just the names of these fishing towns. Actually has nothing to do with the devilfish.
I'm kind of glad.
And so in this shallow water where the men are about to go fishing, they encounter a giant squid.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yes.
I
So
love giant squids.
at some point, a giant squid had come into too shallow water and was thrashing around near the fishing boat.
Oh,
And yes,
he was lost.
you feel really bad, exactly. But the guys on the boat, because remember, this is a fishing town, are like, oh shit, this is a massive fucking fish. Like, this is great. And
Gotta
We're gonna
catch it.
feed ourselves for 20 years.
so the world record is that this is the largest giant squid that has ever been seen by humans.
Oh my god, wow.
And so I'm putting you right back in the place of the discovery. 2nd of November, 1878, this giant squid, stuff of nightmares, is thrashing around, and it has these large glassy eyes and these massive suction cups that have a diameter of about 10 centimeters across. Like, it
They
is
would have thought it was like the Kraken coming to get them.
It is enormous, Sarah. It measures 58 feet or 16 meters long.
Oh my god, that is a big squiddy boy.
Bigger than the snake you ran over.
It's huge. It's a massive squid. I would be terrified. Imagine how big its beak would be.
Yes. Oh, I know. And so
No.
the thing is like churning the water, and it's like thrashing all over the place. These arms are just so monumental that they are trying to dodge the thrashing arms. There's black ink everywhere. And they say, all right, we're fishermen. And like, this is like some huge massive fish. Don't go anywhere. And so
Just wait right there.
they wait right there. So they're like, you know, hang on. So they wrap it in rope. And they're like, okay, don't swim away. Don't get away. So they tie the rope to a tree. like you would a dog. So they tie up the giant squid to a tree. But then the tide goes out.
Oh no.
And so the squid dies because he was tied to a fucking tree. And the tide went out. And so the people in the...
These men would have been so confused.
And not only that, but like I said, this is a world record. There has never been a squid this large before. And instead of preserving the specimen or studying it, it was immediately cut up for dog food.
What? Dog food.
Dog food.
They had premium calamari and they used it for dog food.
They had what could have been one of the most scientific, like important scientific discoveries, especially regarding giant squids. And it was immediately cut up for dog food.
I am speechless.
What's also kind of amazing is, you know, no pictures survive, and it's all kind of secondhand accounts of the people who were there. There were 3 fishermen, like I said. 2 of them still remain unnamed. Like, this was very poorly documented, and so it's also been a little bit controversial as to whether or not this is the largest giant squid, because there's scant
Pics or it
evidence.
didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they are sure that it happened, but part of the science or finesse of measuring a giant squid is actually a little bit involved. So there are parts of the arms, I guess, that are a little bit elasticy. So nobody knows if the parts of the squid were stretched all the way and then measured, or if they were left to relax and then measured. So what's tricky is nowadays we have enough data on giant squids that there's I think that there is speculated, somewhere I had like a quote of like how many different species of giant squid people think that there are. So, there is some diversity among them. But the idea is that the thimble tickle specimen was so big that people think that maybe it was incorrectly measured. And I love that in the Wikipedia article, one of the reasons that this could have been poorly measured is because at the time people just counted paces. They just walked next to
You
it.
might have just had someone with really tiny feet walking next to the giant squid.
Or they're like, I sang Mary Had a Little Lamb 3 times while I walked along the side. I know. So there is some controversy, but if you go to Thimble Tickle today, there is a replica of the giant squid, and just looking at pictures of the statue, you can really start to understand just what it would have been like to be in like a tiny little boat next to the damn thing. It is huge.
My final throwback for this episode is the most surprising topic I found throughout all of our recordings this year, and it goes to Drew for his topic of D&D mimics in folklore. And I thought this was awesome. So not only do I play D&D and have come across a couple of different mimics, I loved that this was rooted in ancient folklore and other things that happen in nature, and I think it's really fascinating. And so if you want to learn all about it apart from this clip and hear the rest of what we had to say, you can go listen to episode 3, Ask Alice about mimicking the Cock Lane ghost to curse your lover. It's a great title, and I promise it's a great episode. And just a little hint of why I love this clip so bloody much is because we talk about D&D, Ted Bundy, and fish becoming testes, all within like a minute of each other. So it's a wild ride, and it's fantastic. I hope you enjoy.
So the idea of a mimic itself, like the creature itself, is from the 1977 Dungeons and Dragons, but let's get into where it actually comes from, because that's where I got to.
Cool.
So let's start with the idea of nature, or not the idea of nature. Let's start with
Another conspiracy
nature. What a
theory,
concept!
The idea of nature.
Okay, so let's start with nature, as this idea is as old as the predator and prey dynamic. So this type of mimicry is called aggressive mimicry, which is also compared to the story of a wolf in sheep's clothing, which we'll get to later. But basically the idea is to present oneself as something innocuous in order to have the prey let its guard down and then attack, of course.
This is like Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Disguising oneself as a normal human. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, pretending like, what did he used to do? He used to wear a fake cast to look vulnerable.
Oh,
He's
that's
just a mimic in real life.
He's a mimic in real life. I don't like that. Oh.
No, me neither. Good riddance.
Yeah, good riddance. So this is, of course, seen throughout the natural world, as, a predator can't simply just walk up to prey without having some kind of ploy. So, yeah, let me just put you in my stomach. There has to be something that the predator does. So I'm sure we can all think of examples, but here are a few of my favorites. So,
Okay.
anglerfish and alligator snapping turtles both use little lures.
Yes.
So,
Anglerfish are so incredible.
yeah, they're weird. They're so weird. Their whole mating thing is so weird too.
We're not going to talk about it.
Yeah, the male anglerfish like fuses himself to become like a bag of testes on the side of the female.
Yeah. Yep, 100%.
It's
That's
wild.
anglerfish mating.
I love it.
And
They're weird little creepies.
It could even do it with more than one male, so it could just have like a bunch of just. But that's mating, and we're talking about eating. So
Yes.
anglerfish and alligator snapping turtles both have little lures that they put out that, a little fish is like, oh great, this is like a little fish that I can eat, and then just like finds jaws at the end of it. So that's a form of aggressive mimicry. Then there's Venus flytraps, use brightly colored leaves to pretend to be flowers to attract insects. So, flowers are very brightly colored, so Venus flytraps leave the inside of their quote unquote mouths to be very colored, and then flies are like, oh, this is great, and then the fly trap closes, and that's history. So finally we get back to my boys, the cleaning fish.
Yeah, I
So
love
there
the
are
cleaning fish.
Oh, from last time.
There are fake cleaning fish that look exactly like the regular cleaning fish, but instead take huge bites out of the host fish that's being cleaned and then flees before the host fish can figure out what happened. So it ruins the whole relationship of host and cleaning fish because it just like bites the host fish and just like, I'm out. And then the host fish is like, what the hell just happened? Yeah, right?
Oh, that's so sad.
so
He's like, I'll
rude.
never trust again.
I'll never trust again. I'm never coming back here. Oh, yeah. So that's it in nature. And those are a few of my favorite examples. So now let's move on to folklore.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, the story of wolf in sheep's clothing is often used to equate to aggressive mimicry, and this story roots in biblical writings in which Jesus, during the Sermon on the Mount, described being aware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravaging wolves, or raving wolves, sorry.
I don't know.
Ravening wolves,
I don't know
God.
why. I thought you were going to tell me that Jesus dressed up in like sheep's clothing or something like that.
Jesus, to get more followers. Clothing.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I have an image of Jesus in like a sheep, and he's just like, beware of sheep.
Yeah, like I don't know why I can picture him with like a sheep carcass over his shoulders,
Oh, Jesus.
trying to blend in. Yeah. Sorry, please continue.
Enough blasphemy for us.
It's enough for one day.
Enough for one day. So the first fable concerning a wolf disguising itself as sheep came to us in the 12th century by the Greek writer, here we go, Nicephorus
What
Basilakis,
a name.
in his work called Progymnasmata, which is rhetorical exercises. And basically the story goes that a wolf takes the disguise of a sheep and is locked in with the sheep during the night, but is killed by the shepherd when the shepherd wants to have sheep for supper. So basically the shepherd finds the wolf just sitting in the pen and is just like, what are you doing here? And just stabs it. And that's the story. So there are quite a few other variations of the story of wolves in sheep's clothing throughout history, and it's just like this idea of a dangerous creature disguising itself as something innocuous is just seen throughout historical writings, which I found very, very interesting. And that was kind of like what I would call the basis of a mimic is that. But now let's actually get into monsters in folklore, my favorite part. So in medieval folklore, there's an animal called a mimic dog, which is a wild dog that could perfectly mimic human speech, behavior, and motions.
I want it as a pet.
Yeah, right. So these dogs ended up being fun dogs to have in courts and are not inherently dangerous, but other creatures, such as the crocata, which is another medieval creature, could mimic human cries for help in order to lure people close enough to be eaten. Now let's move to Slavic mythology. So there's the concept of the Leshy. So these creatures usually appear as tall men, but have the ability to change their size and shapeshift into any form, plant or animal, and can even shrink to the size of a blade of grass or grow to the size of a tree. It is commonly understood, and this is from an article, commonly understood that leshies will lead peasants astray, make people sick, and even tickle them to death. And yes, I said tickle them to death.
Oh, no.
So
I
these
would hate
creatures being tickled to death.
I get very serious when I'm tickled. I'm like, do not fucking touch me.
So these creatures are terribly mischievous and have horrible cries. However, leshies can also imitate human voices and oftentimes lure lost wanderers into their caves to be tickled to death, which I find so funny. They aren't always evil, but do enjoy misguiding humans and kidnapping young women. So there you go. There's leshies, or
They aren't always evil.
they're not always evil, but they love kidnapping young women.
just-
Ha! You thought you could get away without hearing me again, but you can't. You can't get away. I'm always here. I'm always here. But anyway, if you want to hang out with us further, you can go to Twitter, which is Go Ask Alice Pod, or you can hang out with us on Instagram or TikTok on Go Ask Alice Podcast. And Lindsay and Sarah do a great job of manning those two things, and they post some really, really great content. So if you ever want to hang out with us more, you can go to either of those two, either of those three, any of those three. That's the word for it. Anyway, We love you, Robin, and hopefully you join us in the future of 2022. And we're going to make a ton more episodes, so enjoy them. Bye-bye. But baby, there's a horse outside.